While researching the Rock Eagle effigy mound in my previous video, I came across an organization of all women who erected a marker there in 1940. And of course, that led me to the question of why. Why would this group of women erect a monument at an effigy mound? There must be a significant reason for them doing so, wouldn't you think? The National Society of the Colonial Dames of America is an organization of women whose ancestors came to reside in the American colony prior to 1776 and whose services were rendered during the colonial period. So basically, their lineage is traced and they had to have been of service to the colonies. This organization currently today has 44 corporate societies with over 15,000 members. So what does corporate societies mean? According to Encyclopedia, it's a type of society in which various large-scale corporate organizations with powerful vested interests. So wealthy are these vested interests that they are, and I quote, involved in the economic, social, and political decision-making process. Did you hear that? These are some of the powerful people behind the scenes in our country who are working against us in their decision making. And just who are these colonial dames? Who are these wealthy women that are financially backed or made their wealth by providing services? Services to whom? Because of their ancestral heritage. Not surprising, their headquarters are located in the known Jesuit territory of Georgetown in Washington, D.C., at Dumbarton House, which was the first register of the Treasury for the United States. And can you believe that this society is still in operation and has been since 1891? This isn't the only one either. There were several other societies like this one. Societies like the Sons of the American Revolution, Children of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, the Mayflower Society, and that's just to name a few. It almost appears to have been a reset after the Civil War, a reset similar to what the globalists of today would like to do. Following the Civil War, these organizations followed the United States Centennial in 1876 and the Centennial of New York in 1889. The Centennial of 1876 was the first official World's Fair to be held in the United States. It was held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from May 10th to November 10th, 1876, supposedly celebrating the 100th anniversary of signing of the Declaration of Independence, but I'd say ritualizing in lieu of celebrating the anniversary. Perhaps they were ritualizing being the gatekeepers of our history, stealing, hoarding, and destroying all of the artifacts. For money, for power, for all of the above. I'd say they've been pretty successful in that so far. They claimed their desire was to preserve historic collections, buildings, and education related to our history. But is it preserved authentically, or is it manipulated? And what are the probabilities that it is manipulated? I'd say pretty good. So how wealthy are the colonial dames? How much power do they have currently? And allow me to quote here. Today, 41 diverse properties are owned outright by the corporate societies of this organization. The dames own 13 additional museum collections, along with 30 more properties that receive substantial financial and volunteer services from them on a regular basis. And let me point out here, they outright own 41 properties, which of course brings me to the question of which properties. Let's look at their list, and I'll highlight a few, and we'll go into more detail on these properties perhaps in another video. So some examples are the Andrew Lowe House in Savannah, Georgia, which was also the first Girl Scout headquarters in June of 1912. Coincidence? Another example is Gunston Hall, which was the home, and I quote, of a U.S. founding father, George Mason. And just take a look at his picture, and you'll see that Mr. Mason is showing us who he's involved with through the use of his hand symbology, just like so many others. Let's look at some of the colonial dames, like Sarah Johnson Cock, who was an American author who formed the narrative of Southern tales during her lifetime to make us think of the South a certain way, an influencer of thoughts. There was also Mary Hilliard Hinton, who was a painter and co-founded and ran North Carolina's branches of the states' rights during her time. But how? How could any women achieve those things realistically on their own, especially during this time frame, and especially without any experience? Does her family relations have anything to do with how she accomplished this? And what about Anne Hazen McFarland, who was an American physician during a time when women were not permitted to attend school, let alone be a physician in a hospital? The only thing that women were really permitted to become were nurses. How could she have been a physician during that time frame? And she does kind of have a masculine look here, doesn't she? Anyway, moving on, as you can see, there are quite a few of these lineage societies. According to genealogy, a lineage society, also called a hereditary society, is an organization whose membership is limited to persons who can prove lineal descent from a qualifying ancestor. And Britannica goes on to say that lineages are exclusive in their membership. Talk about falling down a rabbit hole here. I most certainly will have to do an additional video on this. There are so many, it'll take, I think, a few videos to get through them. I'll highlight a few that I'm interested in researching. The General Society of Colonial Wars, for instance, this society comprised of all men that can trace their descendants from forebears who were in the military, naval, or civil positions of high trust and responsibility by acts or council, assisted in the establishment, defense, and preservation of the mainland American colonies of Great Britain. Since a lot of these societies still exist today, I wonder if they are still loyal to Great Britain. It makes me think of spies. And then you have the Society of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, a lineal society which headquarters are in Austin, Texas, and can trace their ancestors who, quote, rendered loyal service for Texas prior to February 19, 1846, the date Texas handed authority over to the United States, close quote. They were also the caretakers of the Alamo, and strangely, in 2015, then Tax Land Commissioner George Prescott Bush officially removed control of the Alamo to the Texas General Land Office. I wonder why. We know he's obviously related to the Bushes, so they still have extended family involved in the political power play in this country. By the way, he's Jeb's eldest son. But why was he used to remove control of the Alamo and transfer it to the Texas General Land Office? Governor Rick Perry signed off on that House Bill 3726 in 2012, effectively ending the Daughters of the Republic of Texas' 106-year reign of the Alamo. Crazy, huh? One thing leads to another, doesn't it? The Colonial Dames has a website, and I encourage everyone to visit it for more information. So let's turn our attention to the next excavator of the day in our next video, and I hope you'll join us. Thanks for watching.